Hello all together. I would suggest that we wait a few more minutes because I know that there are still a few people joining the session. So I would suggest that we wait like 2 or 3 more minutes to let them join and then we can start.
Good afternoon. Hello.
Good afternoon. Glad you could join.
Is my microphone working well?
It's working perfectly.
Okay, thank you.
Just join to say good afternoon, nothing more. Thank you very much for being here. Hello, Philip.
I think we're still waiting for the second
we need
share.
just one person. But I think everything is okay for the time being, yeah? Okay.
Our second mentor share.
Hello, Frederic. How are you?
Fine, and you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you for being with us.
No problem. You're welcome. I've noticed that Amparo is trying to connect too.
I have seen that she has joined and I think has just been found.
Yes, she's with us.
Yes, I was trying to come in.
But it has worked and I think now we should be ready to start. Even though it might be that not all, although there are still people raising their hand who possibly will be presenting in this session.
Hello, we should be in room 2, isn't it?
No, it was scheduled for room 1. But I would just...
We are not on the parallel session.
Yeah.
I
would suggest that we have waited a bit, and because we only have limited time. Would suggest that we start the session now.
But sorry, Philip, we are the conveners of room 2.
No, room 1.
No, room 1.
I should be, Frederic, we should be in room 2.
No, in room 1.
Because
you're in the right room.
Is for a parallel session.
Okay. Okay.
In my understanding, at least.
Yes,
this is what. Okay.
You are both in the right room.
We are in the right room, so perfect. Thank you so much.
No problem at all. And well, on behalf of the organizing committee, I would really like to start this session on water-related issues of inclusivity, where we have a focus on culture, gender, and Indigenous people. And I'm really looking forward to hear on topics such as water quality analysis and its impact or consequences for stakeholders in Tamil Nadu in India, or the social equity objective of popular water tariffs, the access to quality drinking water for Indigenous people, or surgical face masks as an emerging pollutant in water resources because of the pandemic. Also, we are going to hear about water quality in urban rivers in Bogota in Colombia, and on water accessibility impacts on girls' participation in maths education in Burkina Faso. And yes, I'm really excited about these interesting topics that we will hear about, but I'm also very excited to have some experienced water professionals here with us in the room, and I would like to introduce our 2 chair mentors for this session. One is Dr. Friederike Lagarde. I hope I have pronounced the name correctly. I'm unfortunately not speaking French. I'm also not speaking Spanish, I'm sorry. Who is a senior researcher at the Université Gustav Eiffel. And if I read that correctly online, you're an expert on fluid mechanics. I also want to introduce our second mentor chair, or chair mentor, that's the right way around, Professor Amparo Lopez Jimenez, who is the director of the Department of Hydraulic and Environmental Engineering at the Universitat Politécnica de Valencia. And if I read that correctly, also an expert on fluid mechanics. I'm excited to have both of you in this session today. And I would then just give the floor to you to briefly introduce yourself and share a bit about your work and maybe your journey in the water sector before we then start talking, hearing from the exciting research our young researchers have done. Thank you very much.
Thank you to you. So who's first, Frederic or me?
Come, as you want.
That's up to you.
I've prepared some slides.
Yes,
you
so
might
did
have
I.
seen. If you want to start, you start.
Okay,
And
I start. I share my screen. Are you seeing it? Okay. I just wanted to make a short presentation because I would like to give all the time to the or young people who's much more important. I just introduce myself. My name is Amparo Lopez. Well, my full name is, we have two names and two surnames. It's some complicated, but please call me Amparo. I am full professor at Universitat Politécnica de Valencia in Spain, which is in the east of the country. We are a coastal city. Let me see. ¿Por qué no puedo? Okay. This is me. I'm doctoral in industrial engineering at this university, and I studied in the United Kingdom in Coventry Polytechnic in UK some years ago, and I am doctor. I am full professor, and I am director of my department, which is hydraulic engineering and environmental. I do fluid mechanics. My specialty is numerical modeling in hydraulic machinery. This is which I am more interested. My specialty is hydraulic machinery, micro machinery used to recover energy in water distribution networks. And I spend my time, apart from my management, which is a lot of time to me, doing this hydraulic machinery modeling, but also in my past research lines, as I did many numerical models in fluid mechanics models with CFD. I did some research on environmental modeling water and air in environmental aspects. And I would like to hear all your ideas in any sense. Apart from this, in my opinion, these diversity aspects are also well considered in IHR, in which I am vice-president of the association, and we have a task strengthening diversity and gender equity, in which I'm very involved, apart from all the other aspects of hydraulic and fluid mechanics, which is mine. And I'm very happy to be here, to be invited, and to be mentor of all such interesting people, which is going to be presenting here. And thanks for your invitation and your attention. And I give my time to Frederic, who will continue presenting himself and all the other interesting people. Thank you, Philip.
I'm starting again my microphone, sorry. If I can share my screen, I will present you quickly myself. I cannot share the screen. I see. Here. So just briefly, I'm Frédéric Lararte, belonging of the University Gustav Eiffel, that is a new university devoted to urban topics. And I've just made a brief report to show you what I've done. I've done a master degree in fluid hydrodynamics about wave related and the deformation of free surface. And in relation to one of the challenges today, at that time we were very few students, at least female students, and it's still not changing so fast. One interesting aspect of being a female at that time is that at that time all men had to do the national service in France. So it gave me a slightly more opportunity to obtain the fellowship for doing a PhD. I did some a first postdoc on cavitation. I just put you some slide extracted from my papers. And a positive segregation. The boss wanted to have a female researcher because he had only male at that time. So I was it. Another example, my second postdoc on the ship resistance. The main challenge was not to be a woman, was to be a foreigner in Japan at that time. We were about 300 at the institute. We were only 4 foreigners and was the only female. One funny aspect related to hydraulics, there is only female total 8 at the level of staff, administrative staff. I continue with position as a public worker belonging to the Ministry of Sustainable Development. Related not to streets, there are not streets, there are sewer networks. And my main challenge was to find a great stable position because moving every 18, 24 months is not so funny when you want to stabilize and have a family. And then I go to sewer, and other example of challenge related to being a woman in science. So when you need to find work cloth, you might see me on the beautiful image presented by Amparo. I'm on the 5th line and 5th column. You cannot find boots, safety boots at that time for small feet. Also difficult to find a female technician. I let you identify the only other girl or the staff. And if you want to be accepted, you need to assume you don't like football. Because when you are with the public workers working into sewers, the main language is not English, it's football. And I'm not football liker. I'm from the rugby side of France, not about the football side of France. And you also need to assume you are the boss because you're supposed to be the researcher. But once you're underground, you're lost without the sewer staff. Even they are just supposed to be basic technician in the French system. And also another boring aspect, some kind of field travel are very difficult to coordinate with the family life. Things have changed a little. I'm back to the surface and I'm on river, and I can imagine you find me again in this picture. Not really change on the community of research, but basically not so much difficulties to go working. Some example of the things I've developed, pre-standard test for Doppler photometers, some prototype of samplers. I go fast to let more time for colleagues. Some interesting device to continuous monitor. On the left, sediment in sewers. On the right, scour into a river. And the main link is a kind of continuity between bow wave and bridge sphere. And if I can have a message for young colleagues and more especially for women, we are still a minority. We have still a lot of challenge to meet. The main one is to overcome obstacle one after the other one. And I suggest you stay yourself. It's sometimes very hard, except I will never write that. But if you succeed to keep yourself and to keep the direction you want to go, you will continue your job and succeed to find a position, if even sometimes with a nightmare, but it's not specific to women, I can say. And if you want to know more about me, it's just my reference. Thank you for your attention. So I think we can move to the first young colleague.
Yep. We could begin. Our first colleague should be, let me see, our Indian friend, Sivarajan. Analysis of water quality and its consequences on stakeholders by using rapid appraisal studied on Odambogaira River in India. Could you be so kind?
You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah. Hi everyone, is my presentation is visible?
Now we can see you, Sivarajan.
Yeah. Okay. Good afternoon, good evening to all. Myself Shivaranjani from India. My title is about analysis of water quality and its consequences on stakeholder by using rapid appraisal. A study on Odambogaira River, Tiruvallur district in Tamil Nadu, Chennai through India. Introduction. I want to start my presentation with a brief introduction generally about my study. The river is everyone knows river is a natural flowing water course. It is used for several purposes and it contributes for groundwater recharge. Being an intermittent river, it flows on seasonal basis and it's cause a fluctuation in groundwater level. The stakeholders who have direct stake on river flow is mainly for irrigation purpose. If the flow is got reduced, they are compelled to go for an alternative source called groundwater. So it's created pressure on groundwater and for drinking, domestic and irrigation activities leads to create a great demand on groundwater. This results over exploitation of groundwater, which eventually affects its quantity and quality. The overall, the poor point of this study is to explain the linkage between river flow, groundwater, irrigation, and stakeholders. Here, this is the conceptual framework of overall study. Here, the river is in the center point. Here, a group of community people only doing the anthropogenic activities which affects the river water, and that river water affect the water quality, both the surface and groundwater quality. Here, the surface water quality is directly related to agriculture, and groundwater quality is indirectly related to it. And here, the rainfall pattern is playing a silent role. Here, by having more rainfall, having a more rainfall person cause more flow in water, and it leads to the self-purification process in river. And the rainfall, if we have a more rainfall, the water quality also is water quality were also in good one, and it's also contribute for groundwater recharge and the surface water also get. But if the rainfall pattern get reduced, this thing will not happen. And the community peoples are the only people who are doing anthropogenic activity and encouragements along the river sides. So the overall, these things are interrelated. If the community people started their unusual activity, unnecessary illegal activities, the water course get saved from this thing, and the natural cost when the rainfall pattern got reduced, it also created pressure on river. The objective of the study is about, there are three major objectives: to analyze the possibilities of the influence of river on the other source of water used, to assess the present level of contaminations through investigating surface and groundwater quality with standard states, to investigate the impacts of water quality and quantity on stakeholders. I have done my literature review literature review to achieve my objectives on the three major topics. First is effect on land use factor, analysis of water quality, analysis of groundwater depletions. Materials and methods used. I have done a water quality analysis, trend analysis, rapid water quality analysis for surface water quality and groundwater quality along the water river, and trend analysis for rainfall pattern and water flowing period and quantity of water flowing in the river, and rapid appraisals like questionnaire survey, focus group discussion, key person interview on the stakeholders of that Odambogea River. The key persons means the major former are the government persons like that things who majorly involved in this activities, being as stakeholders. And based on my first methodology, I have inferred that I have collected almost 6 water samples, 6 surface water samples and 6 groundwater samples. In that, I have collected 4 samples from head ridge, 4 samples from middle ridge, 4 samples from male ridge. In that, I have found that the middle ridge samples are highly polluted, and it indicated the presence of ammonia, which confirms the sewage water disposal in the river. The you can find this middle part here. The population density is high than the head ridge and tail ridge. So it shows that land use factor also the one of the cause for this disposal of sewage water and all. And all the samples are mostly alkaline in nature. The alkalinity shows the disinfections in water. So, and also we can find the indicates the seawater intrusion along and over extraction of groundwater based on this high alkalinity. And the hardness of the water also exceeding the limits. Here, the right side, we can find the pictures and the wastes or disposal along the side of the rivers, and they have disposed the sewage water illegally through the water course. And finally, I have found that the radius doesn't suitable for drinking purpose. It's only used for irrigation purpose, and the biological parameter indicates in all the groundwater samples having the presence of fecal coliform. So it revealed the groundwater is also polluted, and the groundwater also doesn't suitable for drinking purpose. So most of them use groundwater for drinking in nowadays also. It may lead to induction of waterborne disease to those who are using the water without a proper processing for drinking. And here this trend analysis for river discharge. You can find the groundwater trend from this graph. And this is the trend analysis for flowing period of the river. This is also in downward trend. The trend analysis of average discharge and flow period resulted downward sense. Overall, the flow period river discharge rainfall was shown resulted in the downward trend, which is proved that diminishing availability of water sources. And the inference from rapid appraisals like questionnaire, rapid focus group discussion, and key person interview. I have and the most of the Odambogea stakeholders, most of them are the farmers. They are that traditional livelihood also is the farming only. And some of them in the villages all in youngsters also doing farming, but that major cropping period is Kharif season, and the main source of water for irrigation is river. But the next to that river, they have dependent on bore water. Bore water means groundwater and rainwater. Their major crop is paddy. And this crop is the high water intensity crop. So it's proven that farmers need more water for their irrigation purpose. Every farmer having that secondary occupation to live their life. because they felt that irrigation is not an irrigation or agriculture is not a profitable thing. If they have an secondary occupation, they only cope up with that day-to-day lives and all. So they have dependent on some secondary occupation like agriculture related activities, construction works, and some government jobs in Tamil Nadu in India. And they also felt that in 1980s the agriculture it was very good, but now it got reduced, and now they felt it was in worst stage. And some of them have also said if the management is done appropriately, the irrigation should be good. So they have suggested some management like pollution-free water source, no real estate on agriculture land, regular management practice to the river, like that things they have shared with. And peoples were also in the downreach worrying about the saltwater intrusion. During tsunami in 2004, the groundwater also mostly affected by the tsunami waters. And during that time, the water get polluted. Now it also in that stage only. So they have felt bad for that, because most of the person in the head reach and middle reach used more water mostly. When it comes to tail, they get only a less amount of water for tail reach persons. So they have they have crop they haven't planned for paddy. They gone for groundnut production, like that things. The main reason for rural to urban migration is reduced job opportunity and reduced irrigation practice, lack of development in rural fringe, like that things. Yeah, and this prove, and still the people have practice of burning solid waste, discharge liquid waste in the open land. This proves the lack of awareness among people about waste management. Overall, people want to conserve their river course and their alternate source called groundwater too. They also have a passion for agriculture, even though they felt it is not an profitable thing, but they are doing that because they have a passion on it, and they felt this is their traditional livelihood. And this is an one flow chart. What are the issues, and what is the direct impact and what is an indirect impact? Looting of sand from river course, improved issues are looting of sand from river course, improper maintenance of river, great degradation of groundwater level, distribution of polluted water in a river course, infrastructure development along the river, anthropogenic activity on river, illegal distribution of wastewater, real estate. Real estate means turning agriculture land into the urban land, hydrocarbon project, ONGC, like that things are the issue. These issues have a direct impact on weekend river pattern. If the person want to looting of sand, they have get into a lorry or truck into that river band, so it leads to weaken the river band and polluted water supply for irrigation, induced groundwater irrigation, reduced irrigation, and migration of farmers. These are all the things are direct impact, but we have more indirect impact. What is that? Decreased yield due to usage of polluted water. Their yield also get reduced, and over exploitation of groundwater leads to unsustainability. School dropouts. Many of the students got to school dropped out due to lack of money of their parents, because most of their parents or most of them are farmers. They haven't enough money to get their children to the higher studies, and many of the farmers turned into high construction works because of its unprofitable thing, and increased money lending, reduced job opportunity to old age farmers. Because if the old age farmer want to do one secondary activity, secondary livelihood, they haven't allowed for that things because they are aged. Improper sanitation and hygiene. If the water if we get an enough water, we can have an in a proper sanitation and hygiene. If we haven't get an in a adequate water, it leads to improper sanitation and hygiene, induced child labor and illiteracy. These are the direct and indirect impact on stakeholders. And thanks for your attention.
Thank you for this presentation. May I have a question?
Philippe, should we add questions now or we wait or how?
Oh, you're welcome to ask questions now. I think right after the presentation, it's easier to ask questions and or comment on the presentation than later on, because people will still have the presentation in mind.
Okay. Frederic, please.
Yes. If I understand you properly, one of the main challenge for your country is to have access to some sanitation system. Is your country promoting dry toilets to limit the contamination of the waters by sewage? My English is not so good, so I write also in the chat if you want.
Actually, the thing is the problem, because the most of the farmers are in the remote places. People, government wants to encourage and create awareness to those peoples, but the peoples get aware, but at the same time they don't want to follow it, and they have followed that old tradition only. They doesn't want to accept it and follow it. But nowadays, most of the youngsters get educated and tell that things to that parents and the old age peoples in that place. But I hope that in future it will be changed, and the people would get a proper sanitation and hygiene. And at the same time, I want that same people to do not to do anthropogenic activities on these river courses, on the general water courses in that near that places.
In my knowledge, in wet system of sewage, one of the great challenges the treatment plant is taking a lot of place. So in rural areas, it's not easy to accept for farmers because they're losing their fields. So that's why I mentioned dry toilets that are a bit less traditional, but at least less consuming land. Okay, thank you. I hope you will find a solution. It's a great challenge for your country. It's okay for me.
Thank you, Frederic. Yes, I would like to add that natural-based solutions are future in many countries and in many systems, but I would like to know if you have any governmental support. Do you have money to do so? Do you have support of your authorities or your communities or your universities? What sort of support do you have, Sivaran?
Actually, the thing is, the people, the government are doing awareness like that things and sharing money to that peoples for to that include sanitation and all. Because but the people doesn't use that money for that sanitation purpose. They are using for that other purpose. This is the major problem going on in these remote places. So in recent days, 1 year back, government allotted some amount for to build a toilet and all in places, one of the remote places in our country. But at this time, some of them get only use of it. Others use that money for their own purpose, like the money they may borrowed money from money lenders. They have used this for to get out of that. So and universities and colleges are doing awareness to the volunteer students, and they have get used to go camp for every remote places, and many of them trying to get aware about this sanitation hygiene to the peoples. And I want to share one more thing to you. I have find many gender difference in these places. I have did a questionnaire to all the stakeholders, but many of the women stakeholders doesn't want to share their view with me because they get shy of me. So these are the things that now also going in our country. We will directly find a gender difference in gendered activity over there.
Thank you so much. Okay, I think we can go on our next one, or
Yeah, I would just like to point out the Q&A function. I see that there are already 2 questions for Sivaranjani, and maybe you can answer them, and there will be more to come for you and for the other presenters.
I think we can move to the next presenter.
yeah.
So Nguyen, I think it's to you.
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah.
I will try to share my screen.
Yeah, we are.
And now it's in full screen.
Okay.
Yes, okay. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Nguyễn Bích Ngọc. I'm currently a doctoral candidate in the Local Environment Management and Analysis Research Unit in the University of Liège in Belgium. And first, I would like to thank you for giving me this opportunity to share with you our most recent study on the social equity aspect of the current popular water tariffs. So, firstly, I would like to just give some context of our research and why we carry out this study. Water inequity and also poverty are challenges faced not only by the developing countries, but also in the developed country also. Following the full cost recovery principle of Europe, water utilities have to rely solely on the water tariff to meet both their water supply and sanitation costs. Moreover, they face an urgent need for investment in new protection solutions against climate change. And on the other hand, the ongoing reduction in the residential water consumption in developed countries like in Belgium added even more pressure on water utilities to maintain their revenue. All of these results in the current increasing in water tariff in many regions in Europe and including the Belgium. And this might in turn deepen the water inequality and also intensify the water poverty in the region. So currently, the most popular tariff scheme in the world is the increasing block tariff. It is considered pro-poor family and pro-conservation because higher marginal price are applied for higher consumption. This is also the current tariff in the Wallonia region in Belgium, where our university is located. However, there have been some concern about the social equity of this tariff due to the lack of family size consideration. A revised tariff following the same principle, but adjusted for the household size, has been also implemented in several regions, including Flanders and Brussels in Belgium. In this tariff, bigger household, like here for the example, the household size equal to 3, benefit from the bigger first block with lower price. Recently, several researchers have advocated for the elimination of the complex increasing block tariff and going back to the simpler one, the uniform tariff, which according to simulated data work equally well with the increasing block tariff. So therefore, we would like to use empirical data from Wallonia, Belgium to assess the social equity of the water tariff, current water tariffs, and several debating one. And to our knowledge, this is the first study using empirical evidence instead of simulated data to address these questions. So to answer the research questions, we made use of survey data containing information from more than 1,700 households in Wallonia. And we have the information regarding their annual water consumption, their household size, their income, and also several other aspects of their dwelling. We also included other factors at the utility or municipal level. Using this data, we aim to evaluate the social aspect of the current tariff, which is, as I mentioned earlier, is increasing block tariff at the connection level with here in Wallonia, we use also with the fixed subscription fee of 100 euro per year per family. On average, this fee is account for 40% of the family water bills. Next, we tested the social aspect of similar tariffs, but with different fixed fees ranging from 0 to 200 euros. And lastly, we compare the social aspect of 3 different tariff schemes, which we have discussed before: increasing block tariff at the connection level, increasing block tariff with the family size adjustment, and also uniform price. All the tariffs were designed so that the total revenue of the water companies remain unchanged. So I'm sorry. The social equity of tariffs was evaluated using, first we use the average price in euro per cubic meter. Second, we use the water affordability index, which is measured by the annual cost of water bills as a percentage of the household income. And third, cross-subsidization between income groups with positive value mean that they receive subsidized, and negative values mean that they pay subsidized for other groups were also calculated. So our assessment of the current tariff showed that while the increasing block tariff was designed for big consumers to pay extra, but due to the high share of fixed annual fees, the average price per cubic meter drastically dropped when the consumption increased, which we can see in the plot B. And also, that means that the big consumer pay much less per cubic meter of water than the smaller consumers. When we consider water affordability, 12.7% of the first income group pay more than 3% of their income for water, while the average number for the all 5 group is only 3.6%. And more importantly, our results show that cross-subsidize happens in Wallonia, but with poor household paying subsidized for the better one, which we can see from here, the plot D. Keeping the same tariff structure, we change the fixed subscription fee of between 0 and 200 euro per family per year. And we assess the changes in social aspect when we do this. The plot is set here are the current tariff. When there is no fixed fee, the water bill dropped for more than 75% of the household in the first income quintiles, while the bill of the last group increased but slightly. The opposite effect can be observed here when increasing the fixed fee, and it can be seen that the fixed fee puts much more burden on poor households than the well-off one. With a lower fixed fee subscription than the current one, the cross-subsidized direction has changed, with better off family pay subsidized for the poor ones. Additionally, the average water affordability become almost or equal for all 5 groups when lower fixed fee were applied. Lastly, we tested 3 common tariffs, which we have discussed before: increasing block tariff at the connection level, increasing block tariff with household size adjustment, and also uniform price. With a fixed fee greater than 0, both increasing block tariff with household size adjustment and uniform tariff are regressive, which means that the household poor household pay higher average. Here we have poor household pay higher average price than the rich one, and also they pay subsidized for the better off families. The increasing block tariff at the connection level with a lower fixed fee equal to 50 euro or smaller, we see that I'm sorry. We see that progressive effect can be observed in the increasing block tariff at the connection level, but with fixed fee lower than the current one, for example, 50 euro or 0 euro. We can see here at the graph A, also at the graph B. So in conclusion, our results show that a high fixed fee has a high impact on poor family, and also increasing block tariff at the connection level with a reasonable fixed fee show progressive effect in the Wallon case. While our conclusion should only be generalized to other regions with similar situations, such as Wallonia, which have positive correlation between household size and household income, or a positive correlation between household size and water consumption. Our method can be applied in other contexts. And additionally, even though the increasing block tariff at the connection level with low or no fixed fee reduce water bill of more than 75% of households in the first income quintile, but still nearly 13% of the family in this group pay more than 3% of their income for water. So other management tools, such as the one we currently having in Wallonia, which is the financial aid through the Fond Social de l'Eau, are still essential to fight water poverty. And thank you for your attention, and I invite you to check out our other research and publication, and also we welcome all your questions and suggestions.
Thank you, Nguyen. It's a very interesting topic and in some way quite related to the previous one. I've discussed a similar topic with the former mayor of my former city, and she explained me about subsidiaries and social funds that there is still a lot of culture and also acceptance of being not so high in income. More precisely, she explained me that they have noticed that when you have people with a very low income and with a lot of money problems, the best way to make it acceptable is not to make them free, is to ask them a minimum of payment, because if they have to pay a minimum of payment, they consider they are not poor because they contribute to the payment and they are in some way having some responsibilities in a positive way in the functioning of the system. Did you remark this kind of behavior in Belgium?
In that, I cannot say for this behavior in Belgium, but that also the situation, how can I say, because here the current tariff in Belgium, we try to not have the free price for water, but the family receive like 30 cubic meter per year for a very low price. It's much lower than the water cost, than the cost for produced water or sanitation. And this consider the lifeline part where every family receives the same amount of water with very low price to make sure that they have enough water for basic needs. And above that amount, they have to pay higher price than the marginal price, higher price than the actual cost for water to for the company to have the balanced revenue.
Yeah, in this sense, Nguyen, in my opinion, and from my side, I see that sometimes the countries which are in general in need, they are not so aware about water leakages and water efficiency systems, and because there are a lot of water and they don't have to save this water. In this case, in your particular study in Wallonia, in Belgium, do you think that population is aware about water scarcity or water savings or all these things, or in general, as it is not so expensive or it is not so water behavior of, or in terms of volumetric losses is not important for population? Which is your opinion?
I don't know if I can say luckily, but Wallonia has a kind of abundant water. So water scarcity is not really a problem in Wallonia, and people doesn't really aware about that. And also even with the water bill currently, the majority of the population pay less than 3% of their income for water. So water is not a a big burden for most of the population. The concern here is the vulnerable group, the low-income group, which they have to pay a lot for water and they might not afford water. And even though they are a small percent of the population, but they are still the focus of our study more than the general population. Because for general population, the water in Wallonia, we can say that we have enough water and the water is not very expensive.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah, as for us.
Yeah. For
At
us,
the
it is not.
I'm sorry.
But Spanish is not.
For Spain, it's not. I mean, the efficiency of the systems is very, very big.
Yes, for us it's between 3 and 6 euro per cubic meter mean value in France. It's a very it's a very cheap. In the question of reducing consumption, is there some campaign to reduce leaks on the water system in Wallonia?
Yes, currently we because before it's not really a problem, but we have currently experienced some drought due to climate change in 2018 and 2019. So now reduce leakage is one of the important messages which both water company and the local government is try to bring to the people at the moment.
It's okay for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It is also okay for me. We have any other question? Okay.
Shall we move to the third one? That
Yep.
is, try not
It's
to.
Ayodele Temidayo Olularu. Thanks.
I was trying to read properly. Thank you, Amparo.
Is she here? Philippe, is she here? Oh, yes, she is. Hello, Ayodele.
Hello.
So, up to you. You start when you want.
We cannot hear you. Now we can.
I thought everyone started sharing.
Can you move your slides on full screen, please?
Okay.
Now we lose your screen, Ayodele.
Okay. Is it there?
It is. Can you, in any way, can you pass your slides in this moment? First, second, third.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, let's go like this. Okay.
Yeah.
Can you see it?
Yeah, we can.
Yes, it's fine.
It is.
Because it's like if I'm on the slide, I can't see you. So I don't know.
Yeah, but it is okay. We see your screen. We are seeing slide 4.
Okay. Yeah.
And now it's slide 1. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening, senior colleagues and colleagues. My name is Ayodele Temidayo Dularu from School of Further and Continuing Education, Faculty of Education, University of Port Alice campus in South Africa. The title of today's presentation is Access to Quality Drinking Water and its Health Implication Among Indigenous People. As a prelude to this study, the key words are the quality drinking water, indigenous people, and health implication. So to go into this presentation, I have a it will entail a table of content from the problem statement to the acknowledgement. Now talking about the problem of quality water, there's a problem that is general among the indigenous people, which is the quality of the drinking water they consume. And in relation to this, it has implication, it is related to inaccessibility to process accurate data on the sanitation, the security and situation of water, as stated by 3 authors, Edopai et al., Lam et al., and Soyapi et al. Now, talking about the introduction of indigenous people, when we talk about indigenous people, it's more or less referring to the people that are native to a particular region around the world. When we have to talk about the statistics of this indigenous people, they are about 5% of the world's population, and sometimes, in other words, referred to as those that are poor, and statistically given the percentage as 15%. With these statistics, indigenous people, they experience high disease burden when we have to compare them with those that are non-indigenous, as stated by Jimenez et al. 2014. So this we from there go into what is going on within South Africa, and that will lead us to the next slide. And South Africa is a case study also. They have indigenous people within them, and they are also referred to as First Nation. And they have a certain name given to them, like those those in Canada, and those in America, and those in Australia, Aborigines. But those within South Africa, they also experience a problem of water, safe drinking water, which is a constitutional right for all South Africans. But as a result of this lack of having access, it has affected millions of South Africans. And according to South African Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, about 2.11 million people in South Africa lack access to water, as stated by Dupai in 2018, while another study gave the report as 3 million people in South Africa, inclusive both indigenous and non-indigenous, but more experienced by those that are in the indigenous, those that are referred to as indigenous people within South Africa. Then the implication of this lack of not having access to water is the effect on the health. So this will lead us to the question, the next slide, which is talking about the research question for this study and the aim. So the research questions in line with this study had indigenous people, how can they have access to quality water? And what are the roles of the indigenous youth in ensuring that this drinking water is available for themselves, as well as the other age ranks? And what is the implication of not having this water on the health status of each individual as an indigenous person? So in line with these research questions, the aim of this study is to explore ways by which drinking water will be available, and what is the implication on the health of these indigenous people if they lack this access to water. So to provide responses to these questions and to see how they can have access to water, we lead us to the next slide, which we talk about the methodology. So in the methodology, it's an approach whereby we'll be looking at a scoping review as also used by Bradford et al. In 2016, where he was able to look at or profile relevant responses to his own approach of water issues. So this approach that they study used, it used a 6-year duration literature review, which whereby it's referred to as scoping review, where responses, answers are provided to the relevant research questions asked in the previous slides. So in response to all these research questions, we were able to get the result that indigenous people will be able to have access to water, because the research questions were, how can they have access? What are the age rank of people that will do justice to ensuring that the water will be available, and what will be the health implication even if they lack this access to quality water? So indigenous people involving youth in the water quality planning has a significant impact. And when we talk about the youth, the United Nations defined youth for statistical purposes as the age range between 15 and 24. So these youths will be able to have significant impact and various contributions in different phases of water issues. As a result of this, they will contribute to decision making by providing advice on the basis of their contemporary knowledge, historical, traditional information, and scientific research, as well as public awareness. Then the health implication, if they lack this, the lack of quality water, it's chemical pollution, whereby this groundwater, when they are being piped into different houses, they might have been contaminated, been polluted by chemicals from sewage leakage, from industrial waste. They have been piped into water bodies, and then waterborne related diseases such as cholera, typhoid, and diarrhea. This will lead us to discussing the results. In trying to discuss the results, sorry for that. The indigenous people explained that water goes through filtering system to be able for them to be able to get access to water to drink, and the water they drink, it's always treated with strong chemicals, chlorine compounds such as sodium hypochlorite, to fight this waterborne diseases in communities before it's being passed into different houses for domestic uses. But all the same, these chemicals sometimes are harmful to health. And then Edopa was able to also compare what is obtainable in South Africa to what is happening in Bangladesh, indirectly talking about two continents, South Africa as an African continent and Bangladesh as an Asian continent, and stated that high arsenic concentration have been reported in Bangladesh through groundwater contamination. And then fluoride concentration has been more than they expected, as speculated by World Health Education, was also reported in some provinces in South Africa. So in line with this, we shall be talking about the conclusion that when youths are being involved in trying to have access to quality water among the youths, among the indigenous people, then this approach of involving youth and then talking about water education will be via dialogue, environmental holistic views, and then talking about the implication, which will ginger them. And the essence, the reason why youths won't be better to be used as a medium of doing this is because not only talking about their description by the United Nations, but also talking about the zeal, the skills that they still have, because this age range is between those that are in the high schools and then those in higher institutions. So it will bring enlightenment to them and empower them so that they can have access to good and safe water to consume for themselves and also to support other age ranks. In line with this, it will be recommended that there should be a need for working cooperation, strategies, and environmental values framework, as well as national water quality management to integrate scientific and indigenous knowledge in water planning and management through the youth to obtain optimal health. These are the references used in trying to get this study across and to give this presentation. And I would like to acknowledge God for this grace to be able to do this presentation, and also give my sincere appreciation to organization of Youth Water Congress Committee for initiating this conference and allowing me to participate, and also happy to appreciate all listeners. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much, Ayodele. Frederic, you want to begin with your questions, or
yes, I have just a very first one. Who is God Almi on the last slide? Is a god of water? On your acknowledgements.
Acknowledgement.
Yes.
Okay.
Who is God Almighty? Is a god especially related to water?
I'm sorry, Prof. I'm sorry, Prof. Prof. I'm very sorry, Prof.
It's the way you write that make me use the question. Okay, more seriously, I'm afraid I missed something, but what is the main reason for having water that is not good for drinking? Is it an access due to land access? Is it a contamination by sewage, by chemicals, by salt, as in India previously? I miss this point. What is the main reason for having this access problem?
I think there are many factors that contributed to having lack of access to water. Being indigenous, claim of ownership of land, it's one of the factors. Then also there are many provinces within South Africa that are arid. Yes, it's been surrounded by oceans, but all the same, it lacks quality water. We're talking about quality water. Yes, there are waters around, but we'll talk about the water is salty, so it's not meant for drinking. It's not meant for human consumption. So not only claiming ownership as indigenous of those that are native there, but also those that, when we talk about arid land, when we talk about also industrial factors, as you said, because the world is getting more urbanized. So there are possibilities of people expanding. So trying to get some of this land, denying them access to this land and using it, some of these lands for mining, for other sectors that they think the government might think might be useful for the whole community.
Mm-hmm. And is there any public, any policy to help those native people to access, for example, some requisition of land by the government or something like that?
Yes, ma'am. I believe there are policies. There are policies.
Mm-hmm. It's okay for me.
Land.
Thank you,
Their
President.
policies are
Ayodele, I have a question related to the treatments that water receives. I mean, in general, do you think that when you ensure the water quality, is it enough for the way of population, and even related to continuity of water? Do you have many cuts in this supply, or it is do you have many leakages which then mean intrusion? Which is the level in which you think that the potabilization of water is in these areas that you have studied? Is it good or bad, or in general, what do you think?
Can can you please let it, I need clarification on what,
Okay.
which area you're talking about.
The water quality that
Yes.
in your supply, it has some techniques, some treatments to get purified, desalinized, etc. Do you think that
Yes.
this technical level is good, bad, or very bad? What is your feeling about this?
From my perspective, I would say it's not good. I think that's why the water education is good. It will be a better approach whereby the youth that will be able to dialogue with the government, using the right strategy to let them know their challenges. Because as you said, it's still obtainable. There's a class. It's just like mentoring that I am trying to do presently, and I try to ask them how can they accept water within their locality. And one of them was able to tell me that in his own place of abode, they still drink well water, and they put chlorine. So in that way, they are limited because they might not be able to reach the government. But as earlier said, there are policies. But are the policies? We wouldn't know. We wouldn't be sure when these policies, when actions will be taken based on these policies. And if they are not taken, what are the youths going to do to help themselves, and how they will be able to help others within the location or the community?
Okay. And in your vision, there is any difference in the impact in young or in general in population in between men and women? Is there any difference, or it is absolutely equal?
Within more there's women are very appreciated more within South Africa. So I would say for now, where they're talking about gender equality, but I think because if there's always research inclined about how are you going to be able to enhance women in science. So it's more like, I think it's also general when it comes to science. We want to try to encourage women, female in the field of science. So I would say for now, it's like on the more or less, let's say it's gender equality, but in some cases, they will still talk about female empowerment. But all the same, when we talk about issue of water, those that are very affected are the women, the female, and the children, because they will be the ones to get the water available for the kids, for the family. I think I would say it's sometimes it depends on the contextual application.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What one is looking at.
Thank you very much indeed. So I think, thank you. If we have some questions, we can ask, try to answer them across the chat, and we can pass to the next one. which is the presenter from Sri Lanka, please.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Yes, madam. There is some connection issue due to current weather storm. So therefore, I share some recording.
I can hear you. We cannot see you or your screen.
I can hear you too, but I don't have any screen either.
Okay, madam. I share.
I'm afraid the quality of the connection is not so good. Maybe those who are not presenting should switch off their camera to lighter the system.
Okay.
Herat, we cannot see your screen.
Okay, it's okay for me.
Now we can see your screen. Yes.
Here is Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Resha, Department of Environmental Technology, Faculty of Technology, University of Colombo in Sri Lanka. I could tell you many things about emerging water challenge since COVID-19 and it could take a long time. But as we cannot do that, I shall give you a brief account for our topic. Surgical face mask as an emergent pollution in aquatic environment during COVID. Here is our content. And you can see introduction, methodology, resultant discussion, future perspective and reference. As a brief introduction, let me tell you about use of face mask before one set of these evidence. In the health sector, industrial sector put this as a personalized protection scheme to protect against the pathogen. But in 2019, leaders in many countries mandated to wear masks to control and prevention the spread out of COVID-19 virus from Wuhan in China. At the same time, the use of demand of face masks increased rapidly. Because of this, 129 billion per month in 2020 face mask use by humans and irregularly released into the aquatic environment. We have to show one in detail is very simple way through the chart. Disposable face mask in this manner can have impact the environmental, human health, animal health, as well as social and economic. Before going to objective, let me tell you about the little bit composition of the face mask, as can be seen in figure 1. On the surface of it, aluminium or plastic nose clip and have two elastic cord. Most face masks made out of the polypropylene and sometimes use polystyrene and polycarbonate. And the 415 years old face mask that release micro and nanoplastic into the environment. That's why face masks become a serious problem. Okay, now we move on to the objective. In here, we talk about to explore face mask usage during COVID-19 and effect to the environment under the DPSIR analysis. To access eco-friendly face mask disposable method and application. This is our methodology flow out. The face masks that are being disposable in this manner have now become timely issue to society. We continue our focus on this study more than 40 research papers, literature review, related disposable face masks and impact on the environment. All these studies are limited to the years between 2015 and 2020. With this, we select most compatible papers that can be linked to our project. The information we found in the study was filled under the driving force, pressures, status, impact, and response. Now we talk about result and discussion. You already know that, as mentioned earlier, the main contamination is disposable face mask is microplastic. Microplastic pose a threat to many species and a large number of species are now dying. In figure 2 and 3 show some of them. This DPSIR analysis is used to find effective solution or application to minimize the damage caused by microplastic and avoid situation. We will see more about this next slide. The production of face masks increased with demand of consumption. As the use of face masks increased, a huge amount of waste released into the environment. Face masks that are released from the water, air, and animal carriers also increase spread out of the pathogens. Microplastic released by disposable framework harm to the aquatic organism. Some animal will be harmed, become extinct, and even though die. Also, the quality of water bodies is decreased. The useful work can reduce the number of face masks released into the environment and thereby reduce the amount of plastic that accumulate in aquatic environment. Can use upstream and downstream methods such as waste management and environmental cleanup. According to this, disposable face mask is an eco-friendly manner and find out more those associated applications are. All face masks enter the land, end up with the ocean or reservoir. The pathogenic microorganism present in non-treated disposable face masks cause great harm to environment. In here, we suggest some way disinfection for a face mask. For that we can use UV radiation, moist heat, dry heat, ozone gas, disinfection under the hydrogen peroxide vapor, and we can use chemical thermal treatment of 17% ethanol. Here is summary of research on this effect face mask from 2019 to 2020. Firstly, analyze method that can cause contamination is 3 layers of surgical face mask are designed to minimize environmental problem. And secondly, biodegradable or bio-based face masks were employed as the major replacement to minimize the impact on the environment. Eco-friendly face masks were made utilizing electrospinning technology which helped build microplastic all on nanoscale stop specific virus. The use of plant extracts such as turmeric, neem, basil, and aloe vera has increased. The antimicrobial action of face masks. As a result of final research, it can be powered by USB or battery or Bluetooth and work in the conjunction with anti-corona contact lens according to World Health Organization. According to the researchers done in earlier, these are used to detect and minimize disposable mechanism of face masks related to this pandemic. Let's go through it. Use of surgical face mask and as potential source microplastic contamination. In here, they identify contamination of nano and microplastic analyzing method. Another one is formal method for generated and management of the face mask base. They mention recycling of polypropylene used for face masks using mechanical or thermal technology. Because of this waste generation, we focus on make useful product and thereby reduce the amount of single-use face masks that accumulate in environment. So, can we make flower pot, nursery tray, making bag instead polythene bag to those who are interested for this research. In addition, already we started make an eco-friendly nursery tray. For that we hope collect mask urban area under the personal protection method and sterilized after mechanically cut into the small pieces and added binder or using acetone to break down polymer into the tiny particle to form a pulp. Also, we hope to improve that will decompose with the growth of plant. By this, we can reduce the face mask waste that generated by during COVID-19 pandemic. We use research paper literature review route for our project, and I would like to recommend you are interested in those things, you can refer all these references. So here is our end of presentation. I hope this presentation interesting for you as well as important environment. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you for this very interesting presentation. It's interesting because we are going back to an education problem, as the masks are supposed to be put in a trash box, not on anywhere in the world. I've read some similar topics in the French newspapers, and they pointed that the main challenge is to collect the mask. How do you handle this point?
Herat, we can hear you now.
Madam,
Yeah.
Yeah, madam. Madam, we decide collect mass in urban area in Sri Lanka, Colombo, Kandy, like this, and also we use personal protection method. It is very important for us. Yes,
but
I think.
How did you, for at least in France, it's difficult to explain people they could make their mask collected because they don't want to go to somewhere to let it there, or they just prefer to throw away. So how did you succeed to make people having this action to give you their old mask and to keeping them and bringing them to somewhere, to a collecting point?
We personally collect in each houses.
I missed your answer. I'm sorry. The sound is poor for me.
Yeah, so did I. Okay, Herat, if you agree, you can answer Professor Frederic Larate by in the chat, and we could go on if you agree, Frederic.
Yes, I think unfortunately we have to. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, it's the quality of the sound is very poor.
Yeah.
Shall we move to the Colombian presentation?
To Colombian presentation, Luisa Fernanda Uribe, please. Hi, Luisa, we cannot see you, but we can see your screen at this moment. Neither we cannot hear you. Luisa, we hear your screen in a full screen, but we cannot hear or see you.
Same for me.
I can see her, but she's still muted.
No, my microphone is off. Now
it's
can
perfect.
you hear me really?
Yeah, okay, it's fine.
Okay, again, thank you for the space. My name is Luisa Uribe. I will talk about water quality in urban rivers, River Fucha case in Bogotá, Colombia. I'm from Bogotá, Colombia, de Universidad Nacional Abierta y a Distancia. The capital of Colombia is Bogotá City. It is divided in localities. Bogota has 4 rivers that cross the city from east to west. One of them is the Fucha River. It is divided into 4 sections to evaluate its quality. In the photo of Google, we can see a map of Bogota. The Fucha River is in blue, dark. The Bogota River is in blue, cyan. And then on the left, we can see the Magdalena River. The Bogota, the Fucha River grows up in an exclusive ecosystem, the Páramo Cruz Verde. Then is protected by a reserve, El Delirio. In section one, the river has flow free and has a protection ecosystem. In section 2, the river is canalized and begins to cross the commercial area. The main problem here is citizens who live in the street. In section 3, the Fucha rivers meet the industrial localities, Puente Aranda, Fontibón and Kennedy. And finally, it arrives to Bogota River. And we can see the impact in it. The impact of Bogota River when it arrives to Magdalena River is evident. We can see in the image in the left. And the Fucha River cross 5 localities: San Cristóbal, Antonio Nariño, Puente Aranda, Fontibón, and Kennedy. The environmental entity in Bogota has 6 points of monitoring along the Fucha River. We can see them in blue circles. One, on the other hand, it establishes quality standard for the river for 8 years. It expired 4 years ago. Besides, the environmental entity established the General Quality Index for surface water, ICACOSU. The blue one indicate excellent quality, and the red one the worst quality. In the equation, the most important parameters are dissolved oxygen and total coliforms. We propose in the project measuring in 16 monitoring points ICACOSU from section 1 to 3. We are working in the section 4 in this moment. The 16 monitoring points were establishing according to the access to the river, morphology of the river, and the found discharge points. Water samples were taken during the dry session of April 2018 and September 2020. In results, we can see a graphic. We have the localities, the distance, the monitoring points, the canals to arrive to the Fucha River, and the concentration of dissolved oxygen. Don't forget that the Fucha River grows up in a páramo into the Andes mountain range, and the river is located just 5 kilometers from the edge of the city. It has until section 3 almost 14 kilometers, beginning with a good ICACOSU and finishing in a very deficient range, because it has in 0.1 almost 10 milligrams per liter of DO, and air in almost 0 concentration. The river lost self-purification capacity in only 7 kilometers when it enters to section 2 and with the industrial localities. The discharge are with a high concentration of organic matter. The green line represents the fulfillment of the objectives. The quality standards are fulfilled in half of the points. For this reason, attainment standards do not allow to achieve a water quality. It is necessary to have a baseline and propose more real standards for the river. We have some images of the water canal which increase the concentration of electrical conductivity and total suspended solids. The discharge are San Blas, Albina, Rio Seco, and Comuneros. In the river, we can see the streets when the river cross the city. And we can see the citizens, the problem of the citizens who live in the canal, which increase the concentration of total coliforms in the river. Sites like bays, bases of bridges are perfect space for the accumulation of domestic waste. For this reason, it's necessary for urban water to have an agenda from good water governance and formulate policies and strategies with real implementation for the city. Thank you to the students who participate in the project, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Luisa.
I can say that at least your presentation, Luisa, is showing the universality of the challenge of having good quality water for human activity. Is there, how is the water supply system working in your country? Is there kind of factories that are treating water to make it ready to be drink for people, as we have?
Well, in Bogota, the canals are the system of wastewater is building in the conception that the factories waste the water in the river, but before they have waste treatment. But we know, we can prove that is not enough to protect the river because they it's too many discharge in 3 kilometers. It's maybe like 13 points wastewater all time, and the river is not don't have the capacity to treat this water.
Yeah, again, the sewage problem first before any water supply problem, I'm afraid.
Yes, it's a real problem, and they have objectives that is not possible to fulfillment, or if you fulfillment, the river is not a river; it's a canal with wasted water.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it's fine for me. There is a question in the question and answer chat. We are supposed to present today. Can we do it tomorrow? Not for me, at least. I'm sorry, but I can't change of day. I will schedule something else.
No, not for me. I wanted to know, Luisa, because I see there is a lot of discharge of BOD, but you have also problems because there is no of these places in which you have the contamination, the pollution. You have also problems of nitrification, phosphorus, heavy metals, and so on. There are a lot of many different pollutants, and it must be really polluted because there is so big sources.
Yes, it's so many sources, but in this research we don't have the concentration of with these metals.
No,
we only focus in the objective, the quality standard, that the objectives that was I always say
dissolved oxygen. Yeah, dissolved
oxygen. Dissolved oxygen, DBO, but no metals and no compounds, na nitrogen or phosphorus.
Okay. No. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Is it the last presentation, or do we have
had another one for Burkina Faso? Is it ready for today, or?
I'm not sure. This is the question we have just now. Or something. Presentation, okay.
I think in the chat it's the presenter says that he or she will be ready to present tomorrow. But I think all these sessions are packed with presentations, so I don't know how to proceed. Elpida, do you have an idea?
I really don't have an answer in terms of the theme, because we have divided the papers into themes, and this is the issue. But what is the problem with Joshua? You are not ready, as I understand. I cannot see. You were supposed to do your presentation today, and for some reason you can't. This is the case, or what is the case? Because I can't understand, because you say I will be ready to present tomorrow. I would to let more 200 students in university follow for 25 minutes. I don't get the, you are not ready today, but you will be tomorrow. This is the case. Can you please give us your input? Because and I'm not at that point. You said it's hello, please feel to be a panelist, blah 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 blah. And your presentation, can you remind me of your presentation? Which is your presentation? The number 60 you said, and 60 water accessibility impact on girl participation in math education activities in Burkina Faso, right? This is the presentation that you are not in a position to do it right now. As we are here, I would ask our mentors and the member and all the participants just to have a little time more, although we are already surpassed the time, but can you do it today? Is this possible? Because otherwise, we most probably, I will ask then one thing that I can do, although it's not relevant, but I may ask to put this theme under theme 3, which is resilience of societies and digital communication and cooperation, where there I think that we could adjust your presentation. Would that be okay with you? I will ask the mentors and the panelists and everything, and I think we could adjust this. Is that okay with you? It's session 1. It's between 3 and 4 Central European time tomorrow. Is that okay? Not responding. What shall I do? Shall I write on the QA or where?
Maybe write on the discussion box, because maybe the line is not so good with Burkina Faso.
Maybe they have any other sort
to
of
put
problem.
where, on the QA or where?
In the chat.
Or in the chat.
On the chat, okay. Let's see. Okay, let me.
I've not understood neither what the reason of the problem, but unfortunately
Yes,
I can switch to tomorrow. And the session are
we
organized,
cannot
as you explained.
switch. Could it be possible to present?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm afraid we have spent already so much time to organize this interesting
they would have
Congress
presented it, but okay. We could,
and at least I would like to thank you for organizing and inviting me to be a mentor.
Thank you, all of you, the mentors, Philip, and all the participants, because it's very good discussion. I'm just here to listen to the theme. It's very interesting theme, although I'm not very comfortable with that, but it's very interesting. And there are very good presentations here as well. So I will ask Joshua, and if he replies, we will know. Tomorrow's session.
I just wanted to say the same. I want to thank all our participants today for their for participating in the session, all the people who presented for their really interesting presentations, and especially our two mentors. Thank you so much for taking your time this evening.
You're welcome. Where are you from, Philip?
I'm based in Germany, in Dortmund.
At the university?
Yes, I'm a researcher at the Institute for Spatial Planning.
Thank you, Felix, and thank you, Elpida. And I would like to invite all our participants also to come to Athens in September, that we will be having a meeting of IHR, and maybe we can have the chance to see each other and to make any other things, that because it's
In Granada will be.
Maybe in Granada first, yes.
Yes,
I'm doing my best to register for Granada.
So we will be in Granada. So when we see each other, really,
Yes. Not a stamp size.
Not a stamp, but I will like to find your.
I hope for all of us that in the future we will have the chance to host a meeting in Thessaloniki in Greece. We are planning to, but COVID, I don't know if permits us.
Did you do it?
It was only last week that I was infected.
Oh my God.
Now I'm okay though. It doesn't respond. It just said me that you cannot chat with Joshua Bassett. I don't know why. Okay.
Well, maybe
Anyway.
you have an email. So maybe just
yes. I think that
with an email.
Let me put that in the QA. Just no.
At the beginning, someone asked if we can keep in touch. Who was it?
Yes, I wanted just to say to everybody that we are preparing a list of the mentors and the emails of the mentors. So we would provide,
that's fine for me.
Of course, with your permission, we intend to gather all the presentations and also the list of emails, and we upload them to the library of IHR, the library of the UNESCO Center. We will send to the authors, and also we are preparing, of course, the book of abstracts as well. Just to be in touch, because there are other authors also in other sessions that ask for both the presentation and the emails of the mentors.
Okay. For the mentor, my presentation was more nice breaking style, as you have noticed. So I'm not sure it's necessary to put it.
Yeah, it is mine. It's just a presentation, Elpida. If you want, I send it to you, but it was just
just my small bio, it's better. Okay,
whatever you say. Anyway, I'm just telling you the plans. So we have anyway, the list is more important with the email, because I feel that the authors would like to have a contact with you, and then they can have personal discussions or networking or whatever.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Okay, and I think with this we can now finish the last session of the day. And again, thank you to everyone, and I really hope that we'll see loads of our participants again in tomorrow's sessions and in the youth advocacy workshop that we're going to do in the late afternoon tomorrow. Thank you very much, and have a good day and evening.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Tomorrow we'll be back.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.